Well, that was a movie.
Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Justin, and we're giving our first thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep.
Strap yourselves in, this is going to be a 3.5 hour review, and we're ready to go.
Okay, minute one.
Minute one, start the timer now. So, this is Scorsese's new film. If you haven't heard anything about it, there you go. It's Scorsese's new film. That's all you really need to know when it's like a director like this.
That's all I knew.
And it's like, and also De Niro is in it, Leo's in it, Jesse Plemons is in it, John Lithgow, Brendan Fraser. I have to look her up. I don't actually know the lead actress's name. Lily Gladstone. It's crazy to think how stacked this cast is. I thought she was the best one in it. Like, if anybody's gonna get an Oscar for this movie, I think it will be her. I mean, Leo was really good. They were all really good.
Of course.
I thought she was the best, though, and I'm like, how? Like, that's amazing. I've never seen her in anything before this, and I thought she stole the show.
Oh, she was great.
She was,
sure.
And so was everybody. Leo, I thought was great. De Niro was putting on an accent. When was the last time he tried that hard in a movie? I was like, oh my god, he's showing up today.
For you, Marty, anything.
Yeah.
I'll give it a try.
Speaking of Marty, though, so what were his last couple movies before this? So last one was The Irishman,
Yep.
which I thought was fine. Before that was Silence, which I actually didn't really like. Was the last one before that
I actually think I saw Silence.
Wolf of Wall Street, or am I skipping something? This could be Scorsese's best movie since Wolf of Wall Street. Let's see. What are his most recent movies? IMDb, please tell me. This part will be edited out.
No, it won't.
We'll make you sit. This is part
This is
of
for the 3.5 hours.
Irishman, Silence, and Wolf of Wall Street, which was 10 years ago. He doesn't release movies that often. But yeah, this is his best movie in a decade.
Yeah, fair.
In my opinion, at least. Not to say that it's perfect,
Of
because it
course.
wasn't. There were issues. I think a lot of people were daunted going into it by the runtime, as any time a movie this long comes out.
He just has a hard-on for 3.5 hour long movies.
This was
They're
like
always
exactly
great, but my God.
2 minutes shorter than The Irishman, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I don't care about runtime personally. I enjoy long movies. I always, whenever a long movie comes out and people are like, oh, you're just saying that because you don't like long movies, I always bring up Dr. Mabuse the Gambler, which is a 1920s silent film that's 4 hours long. Fucking love that movie. You can make 4-hour movies entertaining. This movie, to me, either should have been a miniseries, like a season long, or shorter, because I found that there was a lot of it that I was just confused by because they had to try to get so much information out so quickly that I kept questioning. I'm like, wait, what's the importance of that character? Why are we doing this? What's going on right now? And either we needed to develop it more, aka make it into like a 7-episode series, or just cut out a lot of that. Like, even like there's a line fairly early on where Leo goes like, oh, I'd swear that on my kids, and you're like, you have kids, or are you just the hypothetical kids? And you find out later, oh, he does have kids. And then the way that they like present the passage of time is, at a certain point he goes from having a middle part to a side part, and you're like, oh, he's older now. It's just, I don't know. The runtime to me was an issue.
I agree, it was pretty long. I do really wish some of these directors would go for like a miniseries, because they would probably kill it on a miniseries. Get out all the story they want, because they clearly have way too much story they want to tell at all times.
I don't even like TV shows. Like, I mainly just watch movies, and I'm still saying this probably could have been, like I said, 6, 7, maybe 8 episodes. That probably is my only genuine gripe with this movie, is the pacing, because of how long it had to be and how much they had to get through, and as a byproduct of that, therefore being kind of confused and feeling left behind a couple moments of going like, who was that character and why do we care, and stuff like that. Beyond that, I really did enjoy it, because as we already mentioned, acting was phenomenal across the board. You've got an absolute all-star cast. And also, I thought the writing was really good. As always, the directing is really good. The cinematography was fascinating to me. They had a lot of really interesting choices. There's this scene where there was a fire that people are putting out, and just the way that it looked on camera was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Also, later on, to avoid spoilers, I'll just say this. There's a character talking in a courtroom, and I guess they just decided in the editing room, because this probably wasn't a directing decision, it was an editing decision, where like normally when you shoot a scene, you have the camera pointing at one character the entire time, then you cut, change the camera, and do it again from the other angle. And they just used the one take the whole time facing the character and really relied on that character's or that actor's ability to carry that moment. And you're just sitting in their discomfort in that moment, hearing the other characters, but really just looking at just their face and how they're reacting and how they're handling it. I thought that was a phenomenal choice. I thought that was brilliant. Another thing I do love about Scorsese is that when he tells a story, especially I think true stories, he always does it in a way that he's not preaching anything. He's just showing you something and saying, what do you think? What do you think of this? You know, in Taxi Driver, he's not like jabbing you in the face going like, look, the American public, the government is ruining everything, Vietnam. No, he's just like, this happened. What do you think? And in this, it's kind of like, this happened. What do you think? And I love that. I really do. Because it's not like, there's not like, I was going to say there's no good guys and bad guys. There's a lot of bad guys.
Oh, yeah.
And very few good guys. But even so, we're not necessarily focusing on the good guys. We're focusing on people that made decisions. Some of them really bad, some of them pretty good. And I enjoy that. It's challenging, but I enjoy that.
Yeah, it's always nice to see a director who can avoid putting their own spin on things and just tell you the story. Because I mean, I didn't watch any trailers because I just knew Leo and Scorsese. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Done. So I had no idea about the story at all going in.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to see it, the whole thing unveil over the 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I really appreciate it when they're not coming with an agenda. They're not preaching at you. He obviously has something he wants to say with it, or he wants to tell the story.
Yeah.
But he's not forcing it down your throat.
I like to think we'd all have the same reaction to hearing the details of this story.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to be aghast and disgusted by the things that happened. I think you're also supposed to be intrigued by certain things that happened, especially at the end of the story. You know, it's like you're really wondering, like you want these characters that are semi-good to be good, and you're kind of fighting back and forth. Like, am I supposed to be rooting for them or not? Because they're doing some terrible things, but they're also trying to redeem themselves. So I found that very interesting and challenging, like I said, because I know it's dumb, but I always go into a movie going like, all right, who's the good guy? Who am I rooting for? And it's like, that's not life, you know? That's not how it works. People are complicated, so it's like, there's not really, obviously, you want to root for the people that are being killed because you feel bad for them. Like, please stop killing them. Like, you're actively rooting for them to escape these situations that they're being put into. I think it was interesting, like, you know, because how they presented at the beginning is like this particular group of Native Americans are considered or were considered like the lucky ones, the chosen ones, because they got rich, but with that, they were like cursed with this situation. And that, you know, you kind of saw that with a lot of the lines characters said, where they were just like, I wish this never happened at all. I didn't want this money. This is their money. I wish they kept it because this has just ruined our lives.
Yeah, you never really have heard of that sort of a story of any Native American tribe in America before. Everyone's just usually gotten fucked over by America. Never one that seemingly got one over on us at first, at least.
Well, it's because they were given the land that was terrible land.
Yeah,
but it was terrible land because there was oil. And so they're like, damn it, we lost that one.
Is it the richest people per capita in the nation? I think?
Yeah. I want to murder my camera. I don't know why it's doing this.
I gotta say, this family leader, the De Niro's character, had absolutely no chill at all with just.
Well, nobody did.
I mean, it was. I mean, I get it was probably just the times, but my God, how flagrant was it? It's just.
Yeah, I mean, and there was definitely a difference between people that were blatantly racist and people that were racist because of the time. You know, like we were laughing at Leo's line where he was borderline. He was definitely racist, but it was like, was he racist because he was a bad guy, or was he racist because it was 18 whatever, 19, 21, whatever?
Yeah.
And it was like, because he had that line where he's like hitting on her, and he's like, I like the shade of the color of your skin, and you're like,
you got nice skin. What color is that? Is my color.
And you're like, I mean, it's a compliment, but don't say it, dude. Like, it's 100 years ago, so it's like stuff like that.
I like to think that's how my dad hit on my mom.
I told you next Tinder date I'm on. I like the color of your skin, girl. What you call that shade?
That your color.
Yeah, so that's bad, obviously, but it's completely different when they're like, oh, they're savages, you can't control them. Like when, like, oh, that one's a half-breed and stuff. Like, that is objectively evil, you know? It's like, that's different than ignorant. Ignorance and evil are very different, so it's like, there was definite both. And you're right, De Niro's character was completely evil. He had no redeemable qualities about him. Like I don't think you could find any. So it's like I said, Scorsese wasn't trying to preach anything, but he didn't have to.
No,
this guy sucks.
If anyone feels differently about this story, it says something really terrible about you.
Right. Maybe we should just get into spoilers. Before we do, yeah, I just really genuinely enjoyed it. I thought it was very well made. I've even talked in the past about Thelma Schoonmaker's editing. I genuinely dislike. I'm assuming she edited this. I didn't check yet, but she edits all of Scorsese's films. I didn't have any issues with the editing at all in this. I thought all around this movie was pretty much flawless, other than, like I said, that runtime pacing thing, and just being genuinely confused a couple times. But beyond that, really enjoyed it. Really recommend it. If you don't mind long movies, definitely see in the theater because it is a spectacle. But also, I think watching it at home would be enjoyable because you can take bathroom breaks.
Yeah, that was a little worry, but I am glad I got to see this in theaters. It is always nice seeing things on the big screen, even if they are this long. And yeah, I mean, it's just a really great story you probably haven't heard before unless you looked it up or, you know, probably watched some of the trailer.
I had heard, like, I think, like, the Cliff Notes version, but never really in-depth. Like, I didn't know any characters' names. Like, I didn't know who anybody was. I just knew, oh, this happened, and people got fucked over. That's all I really knew. So it was really cool to see it fleshed out. Like I said, cinematography was beautiful. So that's why I recommend seeing it on a big screen, because it just looked beautiful. So, anyway, yeah, watch it. Scorsese. I really shouldn't have to tell you to go see
and Leo,
Scorsese
like,
film.
the
And
end.
De Niro. It's amazing how people would just keep showing up and you're like, oh my god, Jesse Plemons. Oh my god, John Lithgow. Oh my god, Brendan Fraser. And it was just like so many phenomenal actors, and she outshone all of them, which is just mind-blowing. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and share, and subscribe if you're new here. And we're going to get into spoilers right now. So, spoilers. Yeah, I really enjoyed, like, the whole tug of war back and forth between, like, truth, what is truth, like, near the end of this movie. And if there were any pacing issues, they were gone for the last hour. The last hour of this movie was phenomenal to me. And that's when the political stuff was getting in. That's when they became like a courtroom drama, essentially. And so Leo's character is trying to decide what really is right. You know, he wants to take care of his family. And so he ends up deciding he's going to just tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And he believes he does until he's confronted with the fact that he not necessarily knowingly, because I don't think he knew he was poisoning his wife, but he was willfully blind, willfully ignorant about what he was giving her. So when she asks him, like, did you tell the truth? He's like, yeah, I told the whole truth. And she goes, really, the whole truth? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, so what did you give me? And then in that moment, he realized he fucked up. And that was his chance to tell the truth, but he lied. And that's when, like, his redemption arc sank. Because this whole time, it's like, oh, he's kind of redeeming himself. Oh, no, he's not. Oh, he's redeeming himself. Oh, he's not. And in that moment, he lost. I was like, damn, that was devastating.
Yeah. Insolent.
It was just insolent.
Yeah, I really don't know if he knew, because he genuinely seemed to love his wife. He genuinely seemed to care about her diabetes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's literally going out at night, robbing people, robbing graves.
His wife's sister's grave.
Yeah. Like, he knows what he's sending. He set up the bombing. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows what his uncle, right?
Yeah, his uncle
is doing in this town. At least I mean, he knows.
he
knows a
with it.
lot of it.
Yeah,
If not, he
he's
doesn't have the
involved.
whole master plan.
He's not murdering anybody, but he's just setting up the hits. Like he's involved completely. And yeah, it was tough because like I said, you're rooting for him. Like you want to see him be good, and a lot of it, like they kind of are saying, like I don't think you're really a bad guy. I think you're just simple. Is how they put it. Like I think you're just stupid, and like you're scared to go against your uncle because he's so powerful and he outsmarts you and he convinces you of these things. And so it's like you're kind of like, yeah, I think so. Like I want him to be good. I want him to redeem himself. And like I said, he got this close, and then at the end. Because like I agree, I don't think he knew he was poisoning her until she mentions it, and in that moment you see it click, and he's like, "Oh, it was," but then he was too afraid or whatever to admit it, and he lied, and that's when he lost. And then we got that epilogue, which was really interesting. That's the second time this year where a movie has suddenly thrown a curveball like that. That was Asteroid City. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No.
But that whole movie is like a movie within a play, and it's like I wasn't prepared for that to happen to me a second time. And so I found that very interesting because I mean it was just a spoken word version of what you normally get.
I mean, I'm happy about it because it is very different from the usual black screen image, white text. So and so put up the next image. So and so did this. So and so did this. Now I like this a little bit better.
I found it a little harder to follow simply because of the stylism of it, where it's just like this happened, but as they're saying that, they're like doing sound effects and scratching on things.
It's like a radio.
Yeah, it was a radio program style thing.
Yeah,
and so they're like, oh, he was sent to jail, and so like. Clank and stuff. And I was just like
writing letters.
Yeah, and I was so distracted by that I missed half of what they said happened to people. But then I was like, all right, and I focused in to hear the most important part, which was Scorsese delivered it himself, which I was like, well, what? He already had a cameo, so I wasn't expecting a second cameo. But I guess he had 2 cameos in Taxi Driver. Anyway, when he talks about how like, and once again, I don't know what the meaning of this was, and I don't know if he even knew. He just found it interesting and wanted to talk about it. Was when she died, because by the way, she divorced him, which, because of that final lie, I would have to assume all the other things she stuck by him with when she found out all these other things, she was just trying to stick by him, and when it came down to that final lie, then she's like, all right, I'm done. He went to jail, got out, but ended up living with his brother, and she got remarried.
Yeah, he got a life sentence and got out
a few years later.
For something.
I forget.
Because the uncle got out because of model prisoner behavior.
Yeah, he got out for good behavior. He just got a resentence where they went back.
Oh no, he got pardoned.
Yeah, he got pardoned.
Yeah.
So anyway, she ends up dying from diabetes later. And in her obituary, when they talk about it, no mention of him. No mention of her past life, and no mention of any of the murders. And that's where it's like, I don't know, like, in a worse movie, the director may have tried to make a point with that and preach something about that. But Scorsese didn't make a point. He just said, this is what it said. And then goes, huh, and not literally, but that's kind of how it felt, was like, I wonder why. And then the movie ends. And I found that very interesting, because I do wonder why. I wonder why, there was no mention of any of that. I wonder what that means, or if that. Yeah, I don't know.
Who wrote her obituary? I guess
that's true. I think normally people have some involvement when they know they're gonna die.
I would think
some
so.
say in it.
I would think you'd be able to send something in.
Right.
They gotta like ask around, figure out some information about you, but
yeah, I don't know what it means, but it was interesting. I found that part very interesting. Like I said, I enjoyed the whole movie, but the last hour was really when I was like, all right, now we're going. Now we're cooking,
Brendan Fraser got on screen, and it was like, damn, this movie's good now.
The whale.
Finally.
Yes.
Get this Leo off.
And it's funny because, like, I had been waiting for him the whole time, so when Jesse Plemons came on screen, I completely forgot that he was in this movie, so I was just like, oh my god, another big guy that I completely forgot. And then you hear John Lithgow's voice off screen, like, I know that voice. I also heard Scorsese's voice off screen. I was like, what? Why are you? Anyway.
Just the brazenness of these murders still is so wild. What was his role in the city again? Was he the sheriff? The uncle?
The uncle was the Like
because I know he was like a
essentially
friend to
on
everybody.
call to be sheriff. If something happened to the sheriff, he would be the sheriff.
Yeah, so I have to assume he's in charge of the investigations that are supposed to be happening into these people until they get outside help during the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just why every random death is just like somebody's in a freaking river. Oh, no investigation.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Also, it wasn't even just him. Nobody cared. Nobody gave a shit. It was like you were more likely to be convicted for kicking a dog than killing an Indian, is what they said.
Yeah.
So it's just nobody gave a shit.
The one woman with the baby in the stroller through the house, and then the guy walked out, puts the gun in her hand. She shot directly through the chest. He puts the gun in her hand, takes her baby.
Yeah.
And it's just labeled suicide.
Yep. And then same thing, they weren't able to say it was suicide because the guy shot him in the back of the head and then
with the red car.
They weren't able to pin that as a suicide, but still, nobody cared.
Huh?
They were just like, oh, that was a murder. Anyway, it's like that meme. Oh no. Anyway, that's what it was. And that's how everybody treated it. And I was just, you're right. I was expecting, honestly, from Scorsese, more brutality shown on screen because that's what he does typically. And there was a couple moments where you're like, oh, that was brutal. But for the most part, it was mainly just the brutality of the fact of the matter of it all.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, there's all this blood or oh, gore. It was just like, oh my God, this is so, to them, normal. Like nobody gave a shit. And I think maybe that was a choice by him, I'm not sure, but maybe that was the idea behind it. It was like, we don't need to be brutal. They were brutal enough in what they were doing, and Oh yeah, no, some of those were crazy, because like, when people are dying in the beginning from the wasting disease, and it's just a bunch of people at first, it's obviously something like going there's
on
poison
here.
Yeah.
It's like very, very clearly people are getting killed here. Mm-hmm. Then the explosion of the couple, just that takes out the entire house, just in the middle of town.
Yeah.
And the craziest is the other sister, the drunk one, who, as they're leading her out there, is just like, you're taking me out here to kill me. I just know you're taking me out here to kill me. Just kill me already. Yeah. And trying to prop her up to shoot her in the back. These people do not know how to stage a suicide. I guess they don't really need to care about that, but
no. It's wild. Like, I know, like, obviously times aren't great now, but it's amazing to realize how bad they were when it's like, you could just murder and nobody would care. Yeah, DNA kind of makes that a little hard nowadays. Well, yes. Yeah. But also the fact that more people care now. Like, there's definitely corruption, but there's a higher percentage of people that care when somebody gets murdered. Yeah. When it's like, literally, like, the line is like, you could kick a dog and you're more likely to get, in trouble for that. It's like, it was just so, it's a depressing movie because of that. And it's not like necessarily the focus because they make it about the relationships with people. But when you take a step back and look at the whole situation, like, God damn. Yeah. And gosh, so many people were dying. It kind of made it hard to trust when somebody just died of natural causes. Did anybody? The mom, maybe? The daughter, maybe? Which daughter? Oh, from whooping cough? Yeah. I don't know if she was poisoned. I thought she was killed. I thought that was going to be a plot line, and then it just never really got brought back up again. She was just dead. I wouldn't be surprised if she was murdered, because, I mean, when he found out that he had kids, when the uncle found out that Leo had kids, he was pissed. Yeah? Because he was like, more people I have to kill. That was like his reaction. So I wouldn't be surprised if she was poisoned too. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was just whooping cough. I mean, it was the early 1900s, so people died. But yeah. I really expected the story to take an earlier turn once Leo was being forced to sign the life insurance policy. Yeah, I thought that was going to really change. I mean, that's when it started ramping up. I mean, somewhat, but it took a little while. I thought I was going to just start being entertaining faster in general. And that's why I'm like, I know all the things that they showed were interesting. It was very confusing with the jumping timelines at first. That too. Random. But people that are just getting killed. It's not like anything that they showed didn't matter, but it was like, but at the same time, this could have been a 2-hour movie if we kind of just like, we're like, and then people died. Yeah. And now let's figure out how to persecute people and stuff, you know? So that's why I'm like, there's two ways to do this, and I feel like we were caught in the middle, and that's literally my only complaint about the movie, is you're like, okay, well, if we were going to talk about everything, then we should have made it a series. And if we were going to kind of summarize things, then summarize it more.
This would have been a great series.
It could have been, yeah, it really could have been. The one thing I will make fun of, because I forgot to mention this, is the courtroom scene was hilariously bad. But all courtroom scenes always are. Which is like, everybody's yelling, running around. It's like, this is not how courts work.
I always love,
no court has ever been this way.
I always love, like, Legal Eagle goes and, like, reviews, like, TV court scenes and movie court scenes. He's like, no. This is not how this happens at all. You never have courtroom discoveries like this.
Yeah.
Everybody already knows everything.
Yeah, so that was funny. But it's like, that's the problem with all movies.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really worried about that, but that still did make me chuckle. I think that was also a really interesting moment, was you got to see, like, the tactics that are illegal and were illegal, but were used much more commonly back then by police and stuff. Is just like literal torture.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna make him stand in this room for days,
Yeah.
not see his wife or children, and just stand here until he tells us what we want.
Sleep deprivation is a hell of a motivator.
Wild. I was like, that was cool. And that's one of the things where it's like, see, now I wish we got more of that. And that's where a series could have come into play, because that could have been an entire episode of him standing in this room. You could have worked that and made that really expanded into something much more interesting. So, I don't know. We're nitpicking, though. We really are. We didn't rate it. What would you rate it?
My ratings are totally inconsistent.
I know they are. Like, what was that Nicolas Cage vampire movie? Give it an 8!
Yes.
And then that Gran Turismo movie, I hated it. Give it a 6. What? You hated it? 6.
This is a website called My Anime List, where basically you can just track anime you've watched and shit. And like my ratings are basically an average of 8, because like if I just like something, I'll give it an 8.
Oh my god!
Somewhere, if something is fairly bad, I'll give it a 7.
Oh my
if it's
God.
really bad, it'll get less than a 7.
If I
If I really like it, it'll get a 9.
If I like it more than I don't, I give it a 6. If I think this is really good, I give it a 7. If I think this is amazing, I give it an 8. If I think this was perfect except for one thing, I'll give it a 9. And if I'm like, I can't come up with a single complaint, that's when I give it a 10.
See, I should definitely have a scoring system like that, but instead I just think in the moment, you know what, whatever, number, I'll just toss that in there.
I think for me, it's tough. I would probably have to see it again, because I always hesitate to give something an 8 or a higher on a first viewing, because it's like, that's such a high rating to give.
Especially for a 3.5 hour movie.
So I'm going to give it a very strong 7.5 for now, but that has potential to go up. But at the bare minimum, 7.5 for me.
I'll give it the 8 it deserves.
All right.
But yes, I also really need to see it, not just for those reasons as well. But even if I had,
you need to re-see 2 hours of it and see for the first time another hour of it. Anyway, that's what we had to think. Like I said, and we keep saying, we enjoyed it. But let us know what you guys thought in the comments below. If you've seen it, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
see ya.